Hey guys, Pastor Allen here. Hope your day is going well. I wanted to take a few minutes to share something that's beginning to stir and happen at FCC. About a month ago, we had our vision night, and I shared vision for the church for the future and some things that are going to change, some things that we're going to look at doing, some different ways of doing things. And I wanted to share some of that with you today. Before I get to what our specific vision is, I want to share with you just a little bit of why we did this, and myself and the board came up with this vision for the church, but also just kind of the reason why we should do this. And so, I'd say about a year, maybe even more ago, the board and I began to really pray and seek out like what God wanted FCC to do, what God wanted FCC to look like. And as we continue to move forward and grow and do new things, we wanted to really seek the Lord out for what was God's vision for our church. And so back in February, I went to what's called the M25 conference with a few other key leaders in the church. That's part of our Church of the Nazarene. And I got to see a good friend of mine named Dale Schaefer. He is the district superintendent of the Florida district. And I asked him, I said, hey, if you had a resource that was out there that would help develop vision for the church that's long term, what would you suggest? And he suggested a book called God Dreams. And so myself and the board began to read that book, and God began to really place on our hearts the need for vision. And in the book, Will Mancini talks about this in God Dreams. He says a few things about vision. One, he says that vision serves people. It helps people see where we are going. It doesn't stop us from what's happening now, but it helps us to see where we are going. Two, vision is for everyone, he says. That vision is always a relevant thing for everybody. I mean, if we think about not just in the church, but in our own life, we have visions for what our life should look like as we move forward. And so vision is for every single person. Every person that's a part of our church is going to be impacted by the vision that we have. Vision is for every day, he says, which I love that vision is a thing that doesn't just happen. It's not just about tomorrow. It is even for now. It's something that's happening right now. It's not a scheduled thing because it's fluid, and we'll talk about that in a second. But it's something for the every single day. Vision is also fun. It's exciting to dream. I'm somebody who likes to dream. I know a lot of my friends are planners, but I like to dream, and so vision is fun. It's exciting to dream about where you could go. To me, it's even exciting to begin to readjust things. Like I know a lot of people say they don't like change. I, in fact, actually do kind of like change. It definitely drives my wife crazy, but change is a good thing, and so it is a fun thing for me to be able to explore new ideas and think through new things and do things differently than we've done before. Also, vision makes us better in a lot of ways. I think vision really forces us to look at the now, see what's going on now that maybe needs to change or go. But it also helps us to begin to funnel down what we do into the vision. So if something doesn't fit the vision for the church, we don't do it. We don't take part in that. We step away from that. Vision, I think, makes us better because it really starts to help us evaluate and see where we're going, and are we heading in the right path? And if we're not, be able to get back on track. And finally, vision is ongoing. I'm going to share with you here in a minute a vision for the next 5 years, but the reality is we're going to be looking at even further down the line as we go. So this is not something that ends in 5 years. This is something that happens over the next 5 years, but we're going to continue to shift even more as we go. We're going to keep evaluating this every year to see where God has us for beyond 2030. So that's just a few thoughts about vision. So like I said, the board and I, we got together, we prayed and prayed and prayed. We sought the Lord. We heard from you guys that this is kind of the thing you really wanted us to go after was a vision for the church. And so we did. And we took a good chunk of time, lots of meetings, lots of prayer, lots of heavy discussion about where God would want us to go. And so I want to share with you a bit of that vision. This is going to be multiple videos because there's multiple things I need to share that are going to take a little longer than what I can share here. So today in this video, I just want to share with you kind of the overarching vision for FCC for the next 5 years. And then after I share with you some of the steps, I'll share with you a little bit of each one as we go in future videos. And so, but today I just want to give you an overarching view of that vision. So after a lot of prayer and a lot of discussion and a lot of brainstorming and dreaming and writing stuff down and then erasing it and writing it back down, the Lord has led us to something we are calling Vision 3300. Vision 3300. And as we prayed over this 3300 and what that meant, we came up with this statement and this vision statement and this goal. And let me read to you the vision statement for Vision 3300. Our vision statement is our church in the next 5 years will focus on the spiritual formation of missional living. I'll talk about that in a second. For the people of FCC, that will lead to community connection to our surrounding neighborhood and beyond. Our dream is to empower people to be missionaries in their neighborhood and chaplains in the marketplace, to be a church that is for Huntingburg and believes that we are a part of a revival in our community. That is our mission statement. Now, it's a lot to unpack there, but let me unpack that for a second. Our church in the next 5 years will focus on the spiritual formation of missional living, meaning we want to do everything we can to resource you, to empower you, to teach about the idea of missional living, that it's not just for the professional Christians. It's not just for the hyper Christian. It's for anybody who claims Jesus can live missionally. We are called to live missionally. We may not be missionaries necessarily in the context, the kind of the way people think about a missionary. God may be calling you to Africa, that kind of thing. But God is calling you to where you are. He's calling you to your neighborhood. He's calling you to your family. He's calling you to your job. He's calling you to all those things. We don't believe those are accidents. We believe those are divine appointments by God, and you are made for that space. There's a reason you have the hobbies you have. There's a reason you have the friends you have, and there's a reason you live in the neighborhood you live in and all that sort of stuff. And so we want to do our best over the next 5 years to build into that idea, to build into the spiritual formation of that, not just to say, hey, you got to go. Why? We want to talk about the why, and we really want to resource people on the why and help them be able to be those kind of people where, and this kind of goes to that second part, that will lead to community connection to our surrounding neighborhood and beyond, that we want to build into people and resource and give opportunities for people to be missionaries in their neighborhood, but also right here at the church. As I'm sitting in the worship center right now, we want to start to begin over the next 5 years to connect with the families around the church. It's a lot of homes right here around 304 North Jackson. And so we want to begin to connect with those people as well. And then also to help you in your local context, wherever it is you are, to resource you and empower you to be those kinds of people, missional people right there in your area. But then also, like I said, the second part is chaplains in the marketplace. You talked about that. But to be a church that's for Huntingburg, to be a church that's for Huntingburg. So we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We want to find the spaces where we can interject into what God is already doing and be a part of our community. A lot of churches try to go in and reinvent wheels, and we're like, look, Huntingburg's already a pretty great town. Jasper's a pretty great town. Ferdinand, Holland, these places are great, and we want to help you and all of us be a church that's for those communities. I say for Huntingburg because obviously we're located in Huntingburg, but for all those communities that looks at what's going on in the community and says, how can I as a follower of Christ, be involved in what is happening already in my community. And so we're going to be looking at ways in which we can connect with our community in different ways we haven't before. We've done, trunk or treat and things like that, which we'll probably keep. Extravaganza, we'll probably continue to do those things. But we want to look at other opportunities for us to be a church that's for our community, that's helping Huntingburg be the great community it is, and make it even better as we go. So that is our vision statement. I want to read it again, and I'll have it up on the screen. It'll be up on the screen here. Our church in the next 5 years will focus on the spiritual formation of missional living for the people of FCC that will lead to community connection to our surrounding neighborhood and beyond. Our dream is to empower people to be missionaries in their neighborhood and chaplains in the marketplace, to be a church that's for Huntingburg and believes that we are a part of a revival in our community. So that's our vision statement. So with a statement like that, when you have vision, we have a goal. Here's our goal. Our goal is that by 2030, we will see 300 people actively participating in the ministry of FCC. Currently, we are on average, we are averaging about 135 to 140 on a Sunday. And I know people say, well, it's not about the numbers. It's not about the numbers. You can't put too much emphasis on the numbers. Listen, I struggled with this. When we started putting this together, God kept putting this goal in my mind and my heart. And I'm like, no, I don't want it to be about numbers. But God just kept piling it on, piling it. I could not get out of my head. And finally, I went, okay, God, if this is what you want, you're going to have to make it happen, right? And we're going to lean into you and what you have for us. And so this idea of 300 people actively participating in the ministry of FCC means 300 people actively participating in Sunday morning services. Everything from attending to serving to leading, but also involved in a ministry. Connecting in some sort of ministry, whether it's inside the church or outside the church. If inside the church, they're serving with us, or outside being an ambassador for the kingdom of God and FCC. And so we just landed on this because, again, I know it's not about the numbers, and we know that. We know it is not about the numbers. But here's what we know about those numbers, is that every single one of those numbers is a person, and every person has a story. And every story matters to God, every one of them. And if they matter to God, they matter to us. And so we've landed here as our goal. So by 2030, we want to see 300 people or more actively participating in the ministry of FCC. And we believe it can happen. And here's what's been awesome. We've already seen God moving in ways lately. It's amazing. Our church services have been growing. Our teen ministry has been growing. Our kids ministry has been growing. God is giving us more responsibility, and we're doing our best to keep up with that. We're doing our best to disciple and love people the best that we can, to steward those people, because that means God, the more people come, that means God's entrusting us with it, right? That means God's moving. And so we just believe that this is going to happen. We believe that God has a lot of people in this community that need a church home, that need a church family, that need to be discipled, that need that encouragement. They need that long, lifelong connections and faith and all that. And we believe that God, we know that can happen anywhere. We have other great churches in our community, Salem and Central and others. But man, we believe God has something for our local church, and we believe this is the goal. So that's our vision statement, and that's our goal. Now, the big question is, how? How's that happen? How do we do that? How do we accomplish this vision statement and this goal? Well, let me give you three things, three strategies, and I know people don't like some of that terminology, but man, I'm telling you, three strategies that we believe are going to help us get there, that God has laid on us to get there. And I'm going to kind of quickly go through these, and I'll explain more in subsequent videos. But the first thing is, we believe the first strategy is to establish new values and culture. To establish new values and culture. 2 is leadership development and accountability. And 3 is enhanced communication on mission, vision, and values. So let me just briefly We're going to start with the first one today. I'm not going to go through all of it today. We're going to go through just a little bit of it, and then we'll close this out, and I'll let you know when the next one's coming, next video. But the first thing I want to talk about is the strategy of establishing new values in culture. So what we mean by that is we are part of the Church of the Nazarene. So we have a belief, a doctrine that is founded that we don't have to establish again. It's already there. It's part of the Wesleyan holiness tradition held by the Church of the Nazarene. We don't have to tinker with that. We've already got that. That is down. However, there are two things that we need to focus on. One is, what is our mission statement, and what is our values? Mission statement being, what do we do? We talk about this vision and all this stuff. Well, what do we do? Well, our mission is not changing. Our mission is still to help people take their next step toward Jesus together. We do it in community, and it's to help people take next steps. So when we talk about becoming missional, it might be the next step for somebody in our church is not to go be a chaplain in the marketplace. It might just be to come to faith in Jesus before they ever step foot into being a missionary, because we know the path to a missionary or a chaplain in the neighborhood or marketplace starts way before. So if you came to Christ 20 years ago, your first step wasn't, okay, go and be a missionary. Your first step was come to Jesus, right? That was your first step. So we are constantly looking at how can we help people take their next step toward Jesus and do it in community. We're not made to be isolated lone rangers. We're made to do this in community. So how can we do that? That's our mission. But when we say establish new values and culture, we felt the need to establish some new values. Some of you may not even know that you may have heard the mission statement about helping people take their next steps toward Christ together, and that's remaining. But you may have never heard of our values. What are the three, the things that we take really seriously? And so we had three, which is the idea of gathering, the idea of growing, and the idea of going. We just didn't feel like that was clear enough. And so we've landed on 5 values. And I'm just quickly, here they are, the 5 values that matter to us. 1 is follow Jesus, right? 2 is spend time with God. 3 is community matters. 4 is everyone is a minister. And 5, practice hilarious generosity. And so briefly, I want to talk about the first one. This is all I'm only going to talk about follow Jesus today. This is our first strategy of our values, our first value. And the values are the things that we take seriously. Like, these are the things that deep down in our soul we take seriously as a church, that are going to mark who we are. And so the first one is that we follow Jesus. Following Jesus is a lifelong pursuit to become more like him. First, more than anything, we long for people to put their faith and their trust in Jesus. That is the heartbeat of what we're doing. Like, at the end of the day, none of the rest matters if that value doesn't matter, right? And then we believe people should take a step of obedience by being baptized. We actually have a baptism coming up rather soon of one of our teenagers, which we're super excited about. And God is continuing to bless our teens. But man, we just believe that people should come to faith and then take that step, follow Jesus, and then follow him to the waters. Our goal is to help people continually take next steps in their faith in an effort to become more like him. And as a result of that, our hope is that people would become more Christ-like and live in a way that is inviting to others. That is our first value. Follow Jesus. This is true for everybody. We want everybody to come into a relationship with Christ, to follow him to the ends of the earth, to follow him at work, at school, at play, at home, all those things. And then to take a step of faith, to be baptized, and then grow in their faith and become more and more like him. And so that very first statement, it's a lifelong pursuit to become more like him. And more than anything, we long for people to put their faith and trust in Jesus. So how do we do this? How do we make this value important to us? A couple of things, strategies that we believe are going to accomplish this value. The first thing is to create invitational environments. Create invitational environments. And the way we do that is, 1, Who's Your One Sundays. We just had one recently, the Who's Your One Sunday. We had it for Church in the Park. We're going to be planning a few more of those, probably around Easter, probably around Church in the Park, maybe around Christmas time. We're not sure, but we're going to do at least 3 to 4 of those types of Sundays where we are inviting people to church, but also we're challenging you to invite them to Jesus, to share your story, to share what God has done so that they could see Jesus and come to him. The second way we create an invitational environments is we have our invitations card station. If you not know, back here in the back of the sanctuary, we have a station that has little invitation cards. We believe a small thing like that can go a long way. The numbers are huge. Like people will come to church just simply if they're invited. A lot of people don't get invited because no one wants to ask. Well, we want to resource you in being that kind of person that's invitational. So we're going to have the invitation card station continuing. Social media is our third way. We're going to continue a strong social media presence where people can easily share and invite people to events and services at FCC. And we just encourage you to use social media, not for all the political junk, not for all that stuff, but to just share Jesus. So that the first strategy to help people follow Jesus is to create invitational environments. The second is baptism. We want to promote baptism Sundays multiple times a year. We don't want to do just the one-offs. Don't get me wrong, we'll do the one-offs anytime. But we want to try to build Sundays where that whole Sunday is built around baptism. Or 3 or 4 times a year, we're having Baptism Sunday where we celebrate multiple people being baptized and make it a big celebration for them as they step into that faith, continued deepened faith, I should say. And then the third strategy to accomplish the value of follow Jesus is to focus on new believers and those new to FCC. And here's how we want to do that. The first thing is to have what we're going to call the starting point wall. If you've ever been in our foyer, it's not very big, it's awfully small. But we're going to have one side of that dedicated to being what we're calling a starting point wall. It's going to minimize the space, utilize the space in the foyer for resources around each of those 5 values I mentioned earlier that will help them engage that value quickly and easily. And so you'll see some more of that in the days ahead when I talk more about the other values and kind of how we'll utilize that space a little bit. But we want to resource each of these 5. So if you're like, hey, I'm in a space where I want to practice hilarious generosity, which is our 5th value, you can go to that wall. And there will be resources there for how to have that kind of generosity in your life. And so that's the first thing we'll do for the church. So we're focusing here on new believers and new to FCC, but anybody can go to the starting point wall. The second thing to accomplish helping new believers and new to FCC is intentional engagement of new believers. We want to resource those new believers with disciplines and a mentor if we can. Now, this is a hard one, but we're trying to do our best that when someone new comes to the church and they are interested, they're inquisitive, they're definitely in that seeking stage. We want to pair them up with somebody of the same gender who can talk to them, give them a call once in a while, just encourage them, build them up, pray, and not just for them, but with them. Be almost like a mentor for them as they come into faith. And we have new believers in our church, new people that have come to faith over the last 6 months. And we've got some of them who've been connected with some other people. And man, it's been amazing. Those mentors, if you will, have been blessing people. And so we're thankful for that. And we want to continue to do that. And then the third part of this, new believers, new to FCC, is enhanced connection for newcomers. We're going to be working with the Dare to Care team to establish a strong system for connection to our newcomers that will include both the pastors and lay leaders. And so Pastor Barry handles our Dare to Care team, and we're going to look at bumping that up, at making that even stronger presence in the church as newcomers and people new to faith and new to FCC come. They do a great job already, but we think there might be more they could do. And so we're going to be looking at those things to help those newcomers follow Jesus even more, because we know following Jesus there's a decision we make to follow him, but then we need those people helping us along and encouraging us and building us up. And so those are things we're going to do to accomplish this value of follow Jesus. And so that's value number 1. So I want to end there. Probably in the next few days, we'll release the second one where we'll talk about the second value, which is spend time with God. What does that look like? How are we going to accomplish that value in the church? Why is that so important to us? And we're going to look at that in the days ahead. But man, we are excited about this Vision 3300. We believe God has got some really amazing things in store for FCC. We're just trusting Him with all of it. And we hope that you'll join us in this in the days ahead. And when we get to the end of this series of videos, I'll share with you how you can be involved in helping us fulfill this Vision 3300. So, anyway, that's the first part and our first value: follow Jesus. And we look forward to sharing with you more in the days ahead. So have a blessed day and look for more of those videos to come soon.